Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you've got your cup of tea or your coffee, that you're all settled down around the sofa. Maybe you found your kids from the corners of the house and you're all gathered together. We're going to have a really slick thing where we're going to have a reading now as a video, and then when the video is finished, it won't be me standing here, it will be Fran. So just be aware there's a lot of slickness going on behind the scenes in these processes. But here is Rhea Steele reading from Genesis 1 for us.
Then God commanded, "Let the earth produce all kinds of animal life, domestic and wild, large and small." And it was done. So God made them all, and he was pleased with what he saw. Then God said, "And now we will make human beings. They will be like us and resemble us. They will have power over the fish, the birds, and all animals, domestic and wild, large and small." So God created human beings, making them to be like himself. He created them male and female, blessed them, and said, "Have many children, so that your descendants will live all over the earth and bring it under their control. I am putting you in charge of the fish, the birds, and all the wild animals. I have provided all kinds of grain and all kinds of fruit for you to eat. But for all the wild animals and for all the birds, I have provided grass and leafy plants for food." And it was done. God looked at everything he had made, and he was very pleased. Evening passed and morning came. That was the sixth day.
Good morning, lovely people. Fran here. And if you can see me shivering, it's not because I'm anxious or scared about talking with you now, but it's freezing in this church this morning. So I do hope that everyone is feeling warmer than we are at this point in time. Now, I'm delighted that we're actually looking at this series in Lent on creation. The timing of it is brilliant, I think, for this season that we find ourselves in at present. I think it's brilliant for two reasons, particularly because as we think about creation, it has the potential to ground us and root us again in what is important in the midst of a time of uncertainty and anxiety and just weirdness, as Sam has described it. But the other thing is that it has the potential to expand our horizons. In this time of lockdown and limitation and confinement and all those horrid words, the significance of what we're a part of and with whom we're in relationship, and that we're part of something so much bigger than perhaps we're experiencing at this point in time. This is the reminder to us, I think, as we think about creation, and especially day 6. Now, I could talk for a long time about this. I did threaten 35 minutes, but nobody seemed too enthusiastic about that. So I'll try and keep to my allotted much shorter time to talk about day 6 of creation. We see in day 6 of creation several things. First of all land creatures were created. And I just love the amazing diversity and complexity and beauty and sometimes sheer strangeness of what God has created. You only have to look at some of these TV wildlife documentaries or look on YouTube at films of videos of animals doing quirky things to just get that sense of playfulness and enjoyment that God had as he made his creation, each, though, having the breath of life within them, as it says in verse 30 of Genesis 1. But the other amazing thing about day 6 of creation is not only did God create all the land creatures, he created us lot, human beings. And he created us in God's image, it says. And there's been lots of debate by theologians down through the years as to what on earth that means. And certainly when I was a young Christian, not so long ago, the debate was very much about, well, human beings are made in God's image because they are capable of rational thought. And for me, as a young social worker some years ago, working amongst people with profound learning disabilities, where perhaps rational thought wasn't a particular strength, I just couldn't make out what was being taught there, because for me, every single human being, however broken, however flawed, however complex, however amazing we are all made in God's image. And as such, we are loved, deeply, profoundly loved. And maybe that's all as we think on creation this morning of day 6. We need to remember we are loved by God. But it also says that each of us then, therefore, have equal dignity and worth. And in this time of social distancing, I really do not like that phrase. It's physical distancing, not social distancing. In this time of physical distancing, as we scuttle past people in the street with our heads down, sometimes a scowl coming in our direction, please, can we be those that do not socially distance, but actually honour and value one another by a smile, by an encouraging word, just something that says we are connected and of great worth as human beings in this season. Genesis 1 teaches us that when human beings were created, we were made from the earth. The word for Adam in Hebrew is the same as the word for earth. You and me, we are earthy creatures. And that's an amazing thing, because that actually means that you and I are not just as human beings unique and special and important, but we are part of something much bigger, a bigger community of creation. We belong with creation around us. And what was his name? Yes, I've forgotten his name. St. Francis, thank you. He was someone who talked about the sun and the moon and the stars and the world around us being intimately related with us. He used familial names of brother, sister. And such a wonderful truth that you and I are part of this huge community of creation that God has made. Within that, obviously, we have a special role and special responsibilities to be caretakers of this world, to be gardeners of this world, as Ruth Valerio talks about in her book, to be people who tend and care for this amazing creation that you and I are part of, not just distant from, but intimately related to. And words like subdue that we read in Genesis 1, not meaning to lord it over or to exploit or to do harm to, but actually it's a word that means to fill, to occupy, that it's about the fullness of creation and us tending creation that it might experience that fullness for which it was intended. So we have a special role and responsibility as part of the community of creation. But, you know, Romans 8 talks about, in verses 22 and 23, about creation groaning. And it talks there also about us groaning, these deep inner groans that sometimes we cannot quite articulate, which is about the world not being as it ought to be, about life not being as it ought to be, and our deep, deep longing for that time when God makes all things new, and creation becomes fully what it was meant to be, and we become fully what we were meant to be. And we share in that community of creation in the suffering of this world. And I don't need to go into great detail about what that means, about plastic pollution, about climate change, about how 1 in 4 now of mammals that are at risk of extinction. We know the statistics, and we are in this together, and together we can actually make a difference. Now, in this season of limitation and confinement, I want to suggest that we don't focus so much on the ought-tos of what we ought to be doing in response to being those who are caretakers and gardeners in creation. I'm going to suggest that actually this is a season for experiencing afresh what it means to be part of that community of creation, of recovering and entering deeper into the wonder of what our big creator God has actually made and that we are a part of. Because, you know, as we focus on experiencing afresh what God has made around us, it actually will help us realize at a deeper and more profound level just what it is to be part of this world around us and to actually be those that take responsibility for it. So I'm going to suggest that over this coming week that we take up God's invitation to use our senses to experience what God has made. Now, I don't know if you have a window box or you have a garden or when you're out walking, but I'm going to suggest that you take opportunity to actually use the sense of touch, to feel the earth, to feel the bark of a tree, to let earth run through your finger, and to get dirt and earth under our fingernails. To taste things differently. I don't know about you, some of us, we gallop through our food. And this is a season where actually we don't have to. We can eat more slowly. And can I suggest that we use the sense of taste more, that we deliberately savor what it is we're eating. We might even want to play games with the kids where we blindfold one another and we experiment with tasting different things and see if we can work out what they are. But to use the senses of taste and touch. What about the sense of listening? I'm someone who does not like getting up early in the morning, but I am getting up earlier at present. And I open my back door, and what I hear are birds. And that's what a lot of people say, it's the sound of birds at present. And just to listen to that and to celebrate and experience afresh the glory and wonder of the creation that our God has made, that we are part of. Or whether that's just listening to people's voices. If you have the radio on a lot in the day, just the variety of voices, not so much what they say, but the tone, the texture of different human voices, the uniqueness of each individual. Using our senses can be a really important way of experiencing afresh what it means to be part of that community of creation. There are more senses, aren't there? Smell. I moved down here from Peckham about 3 years ago. I loved living in the inner city. Peckham was my home for many, many years. But I have to say, things smell different down here. I got very used to, so I hardly noticed it, to pollution, traffic pollution, pollution generally. And smell is an amazing sense to be actually using. So stop and breathe deeply. I got a bunch of daffodils the other day, and smelling those daffodils has been, I just love it. And I'm just sorry that they're beginning to die now. But just use our senses a little bit more. And lastly, to look, to see. As you go on your daily exercise, notice those weeds that resolutely keep pressing through the concrete, keep on growing, despite us trying to stop them. Look out of your window or look out of your door at the night sky, at the moon and the stars. Take time to watch some old TV wildlife documentaries or look at those funny clips on YouTube of animals doing quirky things, whatever it is. As the musicians come up and start to play, I think, some ambient music in the background, I just want to remind you that this week, take time, perhaps just pick one of the senses and revel in and experience afresh what it means to be part of that community of creation. That creation that you and I have been made as an integral part of, yet distinct and wonderfully made in God's image, with all the dignity and worth and being loved that involves. So the invitation from our big Creator God in this challenging season is, will we allow him to shape us, to transform our relationship with his wonderful, joyful, playful, yet suffering world as members together of the community of creation? Can we, lastly, just recall that we are part of something so much bigger? As our world has telescoped or collapsed into something smaller, that we are part of a big world created by an amazing, big, loving God who loves you and me, and who is the one who started all this, sustains this world, and is in it with us until all things are made new. Let's celebrate that, explore that, and experience that afresh this week. God bless you. Have a good week, even in the midst of all that you're experiencing. May you know God's presence with you, that he loves you deeply and profoundly, and this wonderful world that he has made. God bless you. Amen.